Now, all across North Carolina, it's Carolina Newsmakers. Each week, leaders from politics, education, business, and the arts join Don Curtis to share insights and ideas shaping our state. Hear interviews that go beyond the headlines with guests who know North Carolina best. Listen on the radio stations throughout North Carolina and on demand at carolinanewsmakers.com.
Welcome to Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live, broadcasting and streaming live from the WIDU Community Room.
The WIDU Radio Network, WAGR in Lumberton, WYDU in Red Springs, and WEWO in Laurinburg.
Making Rounds Live on 99.7 FM, 1600 AM.
We air every second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
Making Rounds Live.
The purpose of this show is to bring you information on health and wellness.
Here's the host of Making Rounds Live, Omega Jones.
And he's in rare form today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. I'm Omega Jones, your host. And February is American Heart Month. So today we are focusing on heart health. Now, before we start with the broadcast, remember that this broadcast is for informational purposes only. It is not a time for you to self-diagnose. We're going to talk about some things today that chances are you may be experiencing or a loved one may be experiencing, but we want you to find a qualified healthcare professional. Now, today we're going to learn how to prevent heart disease. We're going to learn how to recognize those warning signs and how to manage the risk factors like blood pressure and cholesterol, two conditions I know very well. So, and we're going to learn how we can protect our hearts. Now, the expert that's in the studio today is our friend, Ben Beeson. He is the patient care manager for cardiac services at Cape Fear Valley Health. Ben, welcome back to the broadcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love it.
Now, before we get started with the discussion, let's start with you. For people who may not know who you are, tell them about who is Ben Beeson. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And out of all the things in the world, what led you to cardiac services?
So I was actually born at Cape Fear Valley Hospital here in Fayetteville. So I tell people I haven't made it very far in life because I'm still there. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be in the military, so it was a good spot for that. But it turns out I have a heart condition. And so that was not going to let me get into the military.
We have the same story.
There you go. So I ended up getting into healthcare. I found a lot of fascinating stuff about the heart going on just because I was curious about what I had going on. And that's really what got me into the heart care, the heart center, healthcare in general, and then wanting to help people. So,
February, American Heart Month. Why is awareness so important to our community, Ben?
So, heart-related illnesses are way up there, top of the charts when it comes to comorbidities, people getting injured, people dying, things like that. So it's something that you can actually help prevent over time. So we want people to be aware, to know that there are safe things they can do. And if there are concerns that they have, what they should do to get taken care of. And we want them to do it now, not after they suffer a heart attack or a stroke.
Now, you mentioned heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. Now, what I read was nearly 1 in 5 adults are affected. Now, when people hear heart disease, Ben, they often think of older adults, but young people need to be aware of this too, correct?
Absolutely. So, historically speaking, older adults have been affected. And over time, things do tend to get worse as you get older as far as when it comes to heart disease. However, the last couple of decades, society's been transforming itself from an active society to a much more passive society. So people aren't getting out, they're not walking, they're eating fast foods that are easy and convenient, and that stuff is starting earlier in life. So now it's the kids that are getting that stuff, that are not active, that are eating the worst things. And what we're seeing is, of course, older generations have had those issues, But it seems to be sooner and sooner in life, the younger generations it's slowly creeping down. So whereas before it may have been, 60, 70-year-olds where they would have this big concern. Now you're thinking 40s, 30s, because there's been such a prolonged time of being stationary and eating these, unhealthy foods. So absolutely, you should, if you start having symptoms or start feeling like something is wrong, you need to get checked at an earlier age.
As early as 30, Ben?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We still have 30-year-olds that have heart attacks, that have strokes, 40-year-olds that have heart attacks, have strokes. Yeah, you absolutely should get checked. Start getting your workup with your doctor. Start getting the information you need to make, good quality decisions about your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the studio, Mr. Ben Beeson. He is the patient care manager for cardiac services at Cape Fear Valley Health, and he's our guest today on Making Rounds Live. Now, if you have a heart-related question for Ben, what you can do is give us a call at WIDU. That number is 910-483-6111. Again, 910-483-6111. Miss Glenda, she'll be the beautiful voice that you hear on the phone. Also, if you're watching the live feed on Facebook or on YouTube, especially on Facebook, and if you have a question, you can leave the question in the comment section, and Lindsay will make sure that Ben gets the question and we get that question answered before the end of the broadcast. Finally, share the broadcast. A lot of interesting information is going to be discussed today. You do not want to be the middle person trying to explain all of this and trying to recall it. So just share the broadcast, and is basically information that could save your life. Now, today, our in-studio guest, Mr. Ben Beeson on Making Rounds Live. Ben, regarding heart health, what are some of the most common issues that you see at Cape Fear Valley Health?
So, like I mentioned before, we're actually seeing younger people with strokes. We're seeing younger people with chest pain and having, the beginnings of blockages in their heart. It used to be very common for our stress lab to run, 50, 60-year-olds. But now, we're getting, in some cases, 20-year-olds, in some cases, active duty Army soldiers coming in to get checked for things like this. So that really is the biggest concern that we're seeing, is it's not just affecting the older generations. The younger generations are by far creeping in. And the thing about being younger with something like heart disease is, when you have it over a period of time, as you get older, your body can adapt to that, and that can actually help save your life. But when you have it at such an early age, you don't have time to change. There are situations where people's heart vessels have actually grown around blockages or started to grow around blockages to help give extra oxygen to the heart, because they've had those years of issues that have slowly progressed. But with issues progressing so early nowadays, they don't have time to have those vessels, expand around the heart to give that extra oxygen. So what we're seeing is, when the younger generations come in and they're having things like a heart attack, it's much more severe because they haven't adapted to the years of having those issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's very scary for young people nowadays. They come in with severe issues. It's not, just the basic issues, or a lot of times the older generation we see, they come in when they're 60 and they've never been in the hospital before. And we find out, oh, you've had a heart attack. You had a heart attack, who knows, years ago, but you were okay, and now you're having chest pain again. Okay, we can work through it. With the 40 and 30-year-olds, they're not having heart attacks, they're surviving from years earlier. They're having ones that are bringing them in that are, taking their lives. They don't have the time for their body to adapt to some of those issues, and so it's very severe for them.
That is scary.
It is very
That is
scary.
really scary. Let's talk about the warning signs. What symptoms should never be ignored when it comes to heart problems?
Chest pain by far should never be ignored. If you have chest pain and you come in the emergency room, the first thing they're going to do is get an EKG on you. They want to see if you're already having active damage to your heart. If you're not, that's great. They might slow things down to see what really is the cause. But because it's so important, it's so critical, they automatically, when you have chest pain, they're going to do an EKG to see how you are right then and there. There are a bunch of other symptoms, but really what I tell you is if If it's something you're not used to that you can't explain, you should get checked out. If it's something that scares you, you should come to the hospital.
All right. We have a question. We have a question calling. Well, they called in, but they don't want to be on the air. What are the main symptoms of blockage? And the other is, what's the best diet for a healthy heart?
Okay. So main symptoms of blockage are going to actually vary between men and women. For men, it's almost always typically chest pain. It's progresses, so if it's a bad blockage, it can be excruciating chest pain. It may vary a little bit to be kind of just an ache, but for women, there's a huge array of symptoms. It can be jaw pain, it can be back pain, it can be arm pain, it can be on the right side of your chest, it can be on the left side of your chest. You might think it's your stomach or indigestion. For women, it's very scary because you really don't know exactly what it is until you get checked out. So what I say for them is, if you can't explain it, get it checked out. You know, if you lifted a heavy box the day before and now today you're sore, that's understandable, you know, if you can explain it. But if you were sitting on the chair and then, you know, the next day you're really hurting in your back all of a sudden and you haven't done anything, that needs to be checked. Typically, if it annoys you, I say go to the doctor. If it scares you, you go to the hospital. That's the best way to determine if you should go or not. And yeah, the second part of that question?
The second part was, which we'll go into this later on also, what is the best diet for a healthy heart?
Anything low fat, low sodium, by far.
That knocks out everything we eat around here.
That's right. That's right. The more it tastes like cardboard, the better it is for you, it seems to be. But if you're going to do diets like that are really hard to keep up with for a long period of time, I'm not going to tell you don't cheat. You know, if you're going to cheat, which everybody is going to cheat, just do it one day a week. Just spoil yourself that one day, but keep your main diet those healthy things. If you're diabetic, you don't want a lot of sugar. You don't. If you have high cholesterol, you don't want a lot of fat in your diet. If you have high blood pressure, you don't want a lot of sodium. And I get it. Some of those things, they don't taste great. But if you get to that situation where it doesn't taste great, change up your meals a little bit. If you want something salty, if you can't have it, try spicy a little bit. Experiment with flavors. There's a lot of healthier alternatives that still have flavors out there. So if you're using vegetable oil for your cooking, why don't switch over to something that's a little more heart healthy, like olive oil or avocado oil or something like that.
Olive oil is a very good, Ladies and gentlemen, in the studio, Mr. Ben Beeson. He's our guest today on Making Rounds Live. Ben, I want you to stress something that you just said, because I've been guilty of this. Many people, they delay care because they feel it's not serious. In my case, when I was diagnosed with heart issues, I had heartburn, severe heartburn. So in my eye, it wasn't a heart issue. So, but it ended up being a very serious heart issue. But when should someone go to the emergency room versus going to the doctor?
So let's take your case, for example. You had heartburn. Could you explain your heartburn? If you're not sure.
Not at that time, because I was getting heartburn from water.
Right. So that is an indication. If you can't explain it, then you need to get checked. I'm guessing it probably bothered you at first, and then at some point it scared you. And when it scared you, you really got checked out. As soon as something bothers you, as soon as it's to the point where it annoys you every day, you need to go to the doctor to get checked. As soon as it scares you, you go to the hospital. And I mean, if it scares you just once, you go to the hospital, because you don't know if that's the time or not. Typically, I won't say typically, 50% of all heart attacks happen or start about a week before the actual attack.
Really?
You get symptoms. Yep. You get tired. You get back pain. You can't explain what's going on. You just don't feel good. That's when you should be going to get checked. That means we can prevent damage. So if you can't explain it and it scares you, you should go to the hospital.
Wow. Okay, Ben. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Beeson, our in-studio guest today on Cape Fear Valley's Health's Making Rounds Live. Ben, we had a caller. What is a heart murmur? Can you explain it and what causes it?
Sure. So heart murmur is a very broad term, so it can actually mean a lot of different things. But typically when we think heart murmur, we think an abnormal heartbeat, something that you felt funny, palpitation, just an irritation that you felt that you believe was related to your heart. The way the heart works is it's sending out these electrical signals that cause it to beat. Sometimes where those signals are coming from get irritated. When they gets irritated, it may cause a false signal or a bad signal, or it may not work as well, and so a signal has to come from somewhere else. Those are the murmurs or the palpitations that you might feel. Additionally, you have valves in your heart that blood is passing through as it's getting oxygenated. And if those valves are abnormal, it can make a different whoosh. So you don't hear the normal, beep, 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 beep. It might be beep, whoosh, beep, whoosh. That sound is what doctors would see as the murmur, and they'd want to get that checked out. That's actually what got me to go to the hospital when I was a teenager to find out I had a heart condition, was a murmur. And I actually have an abnormal valve. So when they say murmurs, that's what they're talking about. There's a normal sound they want to hear. If that sound sounds off, then they're going to want to check and see why it sounds off. Sometimes it's just, like I said, the heart's irritated, so you have just that one time or occasionally. But sometimes it's something like a valve that is constant, and those are what the doctor wants to find out to see what needs to be treated. For instance, in my case, in another 20 years or so, I'm probably going to have a valve replacement. That's something now I've known my whole life. So at some point, I can go ahead and plan for that and take care of myself, preparing for that eventuality.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Beeson, Patient Care Manager for Cardiac Services at Cape Fear Valley Health. Ben, really and truly, I don't even need to go to the questions. I mean, we can just have a conversation back and forth. But let's talk about cardiac arrest. We've learned that quick action can save lives. We saw it on NFL. We've seen it in different times. Can you explain what an AED is to our listeners and our viewers?
Sure. So AED is the acronym for Automated External Defibrillator. If you've ever seen on television where they're shocking somebody's heart, that is a defibrillator. The only difference between an AED and what you saw on TV is the AED runs automatically. It still requires somebody to push a button to deliver the shock, but it determines if a shock is needed on its own. So essentially, if you see an AED on the wall, it is the full package with the battery pack for the shock and the pads and where they go in the body. And the whole idea of it is to reset the heart. It's not a restart button, it's a reset button. And the reason it's so important to have one nearby early is because when somebody collapsed from cardiac arrest, their heart isn't just stopped. Their heart is quivering. It's just shaking. It's not producing any effective beats. The AED can shock the heart back into a normal rhythm. It can reset it. The problem is, after about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, the heart then does stop. It's no longer quivering. Once that happens, an AED is useless. It doesn't reset anything because there's nothing to reset. There is no electrical activity. In that case, you have to have medication. Somebody has got to come and inject you with something like epinephrine to actually restart your heart. During all of that, because your heart's not getting those effective beats, somebody has got to be giving you compressions. So they're keeping you alive. The AED is trying to reset the heart. And if it's too late for the AED to try to reset the heart, then medication is going to try to stimulate that heart to start beating on its own again.
Ben, why is CPR and AED awareness so important?
So it can greatly affect the chance of survival. Let me give you a little statistics. So in the United States, just in general, if you were to have a cardiac arrest any random place, your chance of survival is probably 9 to 10%. That is very low. Here in Cumberland County, we have first responders. Our fire departments have AEDs on their fire trucks. They typically get there before the ambulance does. Our survival survivability rates go up by about 25%. So instead of the 9 to 10%, we're talking 13% survivability rates in Cumberland County because we have the AEDs that get there early. There are countries in Europe that have AEDs on every street corner. Their survivability rates are 40 to 45%. That's how important it is to have the AED and the person that knows how to do CPR there early. That makes all the difference. Typically, when somebody collapses with a cardiac arrest, they have about 10 minutes. That's the time frame they have. You got about 5 minutes to try to get that AED on there to reset the heart. You got about 10 minutes total. If nothing is done, they're going to end up with brain damage. So that's what we say. You got to be early. You got to get somebody on their way to bring the medication in case an AED doesn't work. Get an AED there and start pushing hard and fast on their chest. You become their lifeline for those 10 minutes.
Ben, before we go to news, what should people know before an emergency happens?
So go ahead and know what your plan would be if an emergency does happen. Go ahead and know where your closest AED is. Go ahead and know where the closest ambulance or medical center is. Those things are important for you, even if you're traveling. If you're traveling, look that up. If you're going to go to a city you're not used to, find out where the closest hospital is to you, because you're going to want to know those things if something happens to you or something happens to your loved one. What's the fastest way you can to save their life? Even with Cape Fear Valley Health here in Fayetteville, we see people that travel, they come in and they had no intention on coming to the hospital, and here they are with a major heart attack, and they're going to stay with us for days or a week. Know that in your area, because that could be the difference between you or your loved one surviving.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Beeson, our in-studio guest today on Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. He is the patient care manager for cardiac services, and he's here because February is American Heart Month, and we're talking heart health and how to keep your heart healthy. When we return, we're going to continue the conversation. Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Thank you so much for listening.
We'll be right back with more of Making Rounds Live.
Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live.
Broadcasting and streaming live from the WIDU Community Room on 99.7 FM, 1600 AM.
The WIDU Radio Network.
This is Pastor Roy and co-pastor Madeline Rogers of Divine Refuge Ministries. And you're listening to Wake Up.
Get up from there.
A House Oversight Committee questioned a number of Charlotte leaders about crime and immigration enforcement in the Queen City. Mecklenburg County Prosecutor Spencer Merriweather was asked about whether Irena's law is helping. The White House moved to attempt to contain a bipartisan backlash over a video clip portraying the Obamas as apes. Former North Carolina Congressman Republican Patrick McHenry appeared as a panelist on ABC's This Week and said there has been a different reaction from GOP members of Congress. Keelan Maxwell, a co-conspirator of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, appeared by video from prison before a House committee and failed to answer any questions. The Asheville Downtown Association hosted a forum where city council candidates had the opportunity to address the biggest issues impacting downtown Asheville. And the North Carolina DMV is ending its extended morning hours at 90 offices. Mike Rayleigh, NCN News.
I'm Jamie Monticelli, WIDU Radio News. Yesterday, the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office Special Investigations Unit executed a search warrant in the 300 block of Maloney Avenue in Fayetteville. As a result, 49-year-old Enrico McNeil of Fayetteville was arrested and charged with possession with intent to manufacture, sell, and deliver a Schedule II controlled substance and deliver a Schedule II controlled substance. Are you looking to gain hands-on experience in law enforcement and public safety? The Fayetteville Police Department is now accepting applications for the internship program. It is an unpaid internship that will allow students to work up to 40 hours a week from May 11th through August 7th of this year. To qualify, applicants must be current student at any college or university, must not have been convicted or pleaded guilty or no contest to a felony or any offense that would be considered a felony if committed in the state of North Carolina. They also must not have been convicted of a misdemeanor of a serious nature that reflects moral turpitude or indicates a tendency to disregard the law. From WIDU Radio, I'm Jamie Mann.
This morning starting out cold, not quite as cold as what we had out there yesterday. Heading into the afternoon, a big warm-up compared to the past several weeks. High temperatures mid to upper 60s, mainly sunny. Overnight clouds increasing, even the chance for a few light rain showers heading into Wednesday morning. Aside from that, decreasing clouds into the afternoon and high temperatures Wednesday 60 to 65. For the North Carolina News Network, I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels in the Weather Center.
Bless the Lord. I'm Dr. Ann T. Newell, pastor of the Soul Harvest Apostolic Church, the church not just there in the community, but there for the community of Spring Lake, North Carolina. We're looking for more than a few good men and women to join the team. Iron sharpeneth iron. We may have what you need. You may have what we need. Catch the vision. Join the team. Join Wake Up.
Hi, this is T.W. Campbell.
And I'm Patricia Campbell
of the Refuge Community Church, located at 2314 L.A. Downham Road here in the God Bless city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. You can reach us at area code 910-483-6477. We're here to invite you to our early morning service each Sunday morning beginning at 8:30 in the morning. Our prayer is at 6 o'clock. Our intercessory prayer, Bible studies at 7 o'clock, which now is our Sunday school at night, and which we call the Word on Wednesday. Come and be a part of a growing community. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
It's that time of year. Cooler temperatures are settling in, and staying comfortable at home becomes a priority. When it is colder outside, heating systems often must work harder to keep you and your family cozy inside. When energy use goes up, monthly utility bills can go up too. That's why PWC is here to help with a few simple steps that can make a real difference. A programmable thermostat is a smart place to start. It allows you to reduce energy use when you're away or sleeping, helping you stay comfortable while managing costs. Also, weathering your home can also improve efficiency. Sealing windows and doors helps keep cold air outside and prevents energy from being wasted. Visit faithpwc.com for more tips, programs, and resources to help you manage your energy use, control costs, and stay comfortable all winter long. PWC, we are more than your hometown utility.
Wake up, you've got the power. Wake up,
wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed, no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead.
This is Wayne Smalls, president of L. Wayne Smalls and Associates LLC, and you are listening to Wake Up.
This is Pastor Neil of the New Covenant Christian Faith Church Ministries, 5427 Murchison Road, and I am proud to be a member of Wake Up.
We now return to Making Rounds Live.
Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live.
Broadcasting and streaming live on the WIDU network, 99.7 FM, 1600 AM. Here's Omega Jones.
And thanks, Ray. Welcome back to the second segment of Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Before we continue the conversation with our guest today, Mr. Ben Beeson, I want to remind you about Mended Hearts. That is a support group that Cape Fear Valley has. And they meet every second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. at Cape Fear Valley Rehabilitation Center Auditorium. Now, if you want to know more information, there's a gentleman by the name of Bill Farr that you need to get in touch with. And just reach out to him because they gave me his email address, but you're not going to remember it. So just reach out to him. Or better yet, his information will be on the live stream feed from the broadcast. You'll be able to get that information there. Ladies and gentlemen, our in-studio guest today, Mr. Ben Beeson. He is the patient care manager for cardiac services at Cape Fear Valley Health. And Ben, we've been talking about heart health. We've been talking about heart attack. We've been talking about stroke. One thing I still hear, people are hesitant to help people whenever they see them in distress. They're afraid of lawsuits.
Yeah.
What is the Good Samaritan law?
So essentially, the Good Samaritan law is a law that protects you if your intent is to help someone that's in need. Say you're walking on the sidewalk and you see somebody collapse. You rush over, you call 911, you start pushing on their chest to try to give them chest compressions. You're not the best at it, you haven't practiced it. So in the process of doing that, they survive, but you break some ribs or you injure them accidentally. The Good Samaritan law protects you from them actually being able to sue you for the injury you caused, as long as your intentions were good.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're the one that attacked them and knocked them down, you're not going to be protected. It doesn't just protect you for everything.
Yeah.
But it protects you if your intentions are to actually help them. Everybody knows accidents happen, but you want somebody to actually go out and be encouraged to help you when you're in need.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody at some point is going to need somebody. We're all going to end up there. You don't want people to be afraid to hurt you and not save you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Good Samaritan law provides, that protection for you.
Ben, when we first met years ago, you were teaching us about CPR. You're still doing that, right?
All the time.
And what if someone or a group is interested in learning CPR, what would they do to get that?
So we do hands-only CPR teaching for free. We do it at the hospital's Heart Center. If they show up and ask, we'll absolutely do that for them. Also, if they want to reach out to me, I know they'll add the information here to the bottom of the broadcast as well, so you'll have it. Reach out to me. We'll set it up for you. If it's one person, if it's 10 people, if it's a group, in a lot of cases, we'll make the time and we'll come out to you. We really want as many people to know this as possible. For every person we can teach, that's one more person that raises the percentage of somebody else being saved. And that really is the goal. The faster we can get there, the faster somebody can get that heart pumping, even if it's by our own hands, the better the outcome is for the person. If you're in the community and nobody comes to help you and you're down for 10 minutes, odds are, even if EMS brings you back, even if the hospital brings you back, if you're down for 10 minutes, odds are you already have brain damage. We want people to come back who they are. And that's why we want people to understand to do this and not be afraid to do this. Most people, unfortunately, panic when somebody collapses. They panic. And that's normal. But we want to break that normal cycle. We want people to realize it's okay to panic, but you still have something to do. You can become their heartbeat and keep them alive. And the faster you do that and the more people that are aware of that and how to do that, the more likely we are to save the lives of our neighbor, even a stranger, our friends. We really just want to push as many people as we possible into that category of being a lifesaver.
Ben, studies still show that African Americans are at higher risk for high blood pressure, stroke, and heart disease. What factors contribute to this?
So this is actually a very interesting topic that I've looked into for quite a while. It's a little bit of a history lesson that goes with it. So if you think about how humans have evolved over time, it seems like, we've evolved over thousands and thousands of years. But if you think about it, really the most evolution we've had has been over the last, 500 years. We went from being these hunter-gatherer type people, barely getting by, to all of a sudden all these innovations that have made us really rush our evolution. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is when a body's adapted or a society's adapted for 10,000 years to become a certain way, and then you rush all these changes, they don't have time to adapt. And that really stands out with the African American community. Because if you think about, 500 years ago, where things came from, there wasn't a lot of this technology out there. Healthy water or clean water wasn't as frequent. Food wasn't as frequent. There wasn't salt in everything you ate. Mm-hmm. All that stuff is things that we have added that from history, the evolution of bodies hasn't been able to adjust to. Whereas if you look at more Asian and European cultures, it has had time to evolve, that it got to them earlier on. whereas in Africa it wasn't. It took a lot longer. It just all of a sudden this was thrown at them. So the bodies haven't had time to evolve. So that's why you see things like higher blood pressure and stuff like that. Salt that affects people more is because they haven't had this salt in their life for generations. All of a sudden, here it is. So now they've got to adapt to it. Their generational changes have got to adapt to that extra salt that's spiking their blood pressure. Very lean meats or very vegetable focused diets, all of a sudden there's fatty foods everywhere. With all the greatness that comes with having this abundance of food we have in society, also comes with all the unexpected additions of too much food or too much salt that bodies haven't got used to adapting to. And it's going to be a generational thing. It's going to take years for us to get to where, the African American community has it easier going with that.
Wow.
Sorry, just my own personal history lesson from stuff that I've looked into. It's really neat. So
you're the first person that's been able to answer that question. So for folks listening and watching right now, Ben, what can people do? What can people and families do to protect their heart health?
First thing I would say is be active. Be active. I think the reason kids usually aren't as affected with a lot of the issues of unhealthy diets and things like that is because they are more active at an early age. But we're seeing that change. More and more people are not eating healthy foods. More and more people are not being active. They're getting on their phones. They're getting on their computers. They're getting on their video games. Try to find a way to incorporate exercise with what you're doing. If you're going to be on your video game, stand. If it's too cold to walk outside, walk inside. People think, oh, well, my house is only so big, I can't walk. Absolutely, you can. You can walk in a figure eight in your kitchen. Just walk in a figure eight nonstop, and you keep going. And do that. And what you'll see is you start to lose weight. You start to feel better. Those are things you can do that are easy and not as stressful in your body. If you think you can't run in your house, you absolutely can run in your house. I know because I've done it. I've lost weight with it before. If it's wintertime and you don't want to afford the gym and you don't want to go outside because it's cold, run in your house. Run to the kitchen, back to the bedroom, and back and forth. Just keep going. The whole idea is to keep your heart pumping, to keep it working, to get it stronger. That's what people and families should do. Spend time with each other. Spend time.
Repeat that part.
Spend time with each other, absolutely. It's so easy nowadays for people to get tired with what they do, and so they say, oh, okay, I'm tired, you go do your thing, I'm going to go do my thing, we'll just relax, and that's the normal day. And that's okay in moderation. But you want to spend time, you want to be active, you want to socialize, and those are some of the things that are affecting health because people aren't doing any of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. Nearly 1 in 5 adults affected, and Mr. Ben Beeson is with us today. He is the patient care manager for cardiac services at Cape Fear Valley Health, and he's telling us how to keep our heart healthy and how to stay alive. That's as simple as I can put it. Now, Ben, let's talk about symptoms, risk, and outcomes. You mentioned it earlier during the first part of the broadcast. The differences on how heart disease affects women and men. Could you go over that again in case someone just joined us?
Sure, absolutely. So when it comes to men, they tend to be a little more stubborn, which is, it's good and bad. They tend not to go to the doctor, which is a bad thing. But lucky for them, most of the time, if they have a heart issue, it tends to be funny palpitation in their chest or chest pain. Makes it very easy for them to say, hey, this isn't right for me, I should go to the doctor. Even though they're not going to go. They know, right? For women, it is a mystery. You don't know if it's right or not to go. Gastrointestinal issues, the stomach issues, especially for women, mimic heart issues very closely. It's very hard to tell which one is which. And women also tend to have, huge array of different symptoms, from anything from arm pain to back pain to jaw pain to left or right-sided chest pain to stomach pain. And because there's such a big variation in that, sometimes they won't realize that they should go. And when it gets down to it, like I said, if you can't explain it, you should get checked out. If it bothers you, go to the doctor. If it scares you, go to the hospital. You know, if it wakes you up in the night and you're like, oh my God, what just happened to me? You probably should go get checked out very soon. Like I mentioned before, most heart attacks, at least 50% happen or begin a week before the actual attack. Wow. That is your warning sign right there. You know, if you've gone a day, if you've gone 2 days, and you can't explain why you have this pain, you need to get checked. That could be the one decision you make that changes your life for the better. If we can prevent your heart attack, we can essentially make your life that much longer, that much better. Every time you have a heart attack, part of your heart can die. Once it dies, it doesn't come back. That is lost oxygen, that is lost function, and for every time that happens to you, if you're lucky enough to survive a heart attack, every time that happens to you, it's only progressively going to get worse the next time. So you want to get checked as early as possible.
Ben, one thing when I was diagnosed, like I said, I didn't have chest pains and all of that. I was tired. I had heartburn. I was out of breath. And I thought that it was because I was overweight. I didn't work out like I should, and it was the food that I was eating. But comes to find out, when I talked to my cardiologist, he was like, nah, we need to get you in. And that's when they found 95% blockage on my main artery.
Yep.
And so I want to stress to the women who are listening right now, we're not going to have those same chest pains, the tightness in the chest that men have. So we need to be aware. If your body is going to tell you when something is wrong, pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's what I always say.
Here's the scary thing about what you just mentioned about your 95% blockage. You can have a 60% blockage, a 70% blockage, an 80% blockage that you don't feel. Which means when you feel something, odds are it's already up there. You're in your 85%, you're in your 90%, you're in your 95%. 100% is a heart attack. You know, if you're at 95% and you're smoking, that 5% that you have blood flow going through that vessel, every time you smoke is getting constricted. That's why you're having chest pain. You know, those are things that people need to realize. If you don't take care of yourself as far as your blood pressure and your cholesterol, you may not feel the blockage that is going to be dangerous to you until it's very close to being deadly. So as soon as you feel those symptoms that you can't explain, you need to get checked. I can't tell you how many people come in with one time, the first time they feel chest pain, they come to the hospital. We do a stress test on them, and they have a positive stress test. We take them for a heart cath, and it turns out they have an 85% blockage. Is that a heart attack? No. Why do we catch that? Because at some point they were working out or doing something strenuous to them, and that caused that vessel to get closed up enough for it to say, hey, this hurts. And that's why we were able to catch it. If that's the time when you get checked out, that means we can check it before you have a heart attack, and we can prevent that heart attack from happening. That's when you want to get checked. Not when you're coming in and it's too late and you've had 95 or 100% blockage, because then you're risking your life.
And mine came from lifestyle change. Mine came from lifestyle choices. Because of my career at that time, fast food was my diet.
Yep.
I didn't work out. So yeah, mine was all lifestyle choices. And so once again, to the people who are listening right now, explain the diet, stress a healthy diet to them and why it is so important.
Right. So there are a lot of studies right now that suggest you can actually reverse some of that blockage that you're already having in your heart. Some of those low-fat diets, the low-sodium diets, can actually help give your body time to heal and recover from the years worth of damage. Now, the trick with that is it takes years of healthy eating to get the years back of the non-healthy eating. Mm-hmm. So you have to really stick with it. There's a lot of, like, red meats tend to be high in fat. Those things you want to limit in your diet. I'll never tell you to eliminate them because you won't. If you do, you're not going to follow your diet, but limit them. Get the lean meats like turkey or chicken or fish or something like that. Things that are known to be high protein, lean, low fat meats, and tweak those to your taste. My fiance picks at me all the time because I eat a lot of chicken. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's one of those things that you think about, like, how can you just eat the same thing all the time? There's 100 different ways you can flavor chicken. And I'll do that just so it's something that I can eat healthy and that I still will keep with. Mm-hmm. Things like that are things that you can do. Add more vegetables in your diet. For every, you know, time you eat fast food, don't eat fast food for the next 5 or 6 times. That way you can get yourself where you still have those cravings handled, because, I mean, let's be honest, we get those urges, cravings. I mean, they're practically addictions nowadays.
They are.
You have to wean yourself off of those, but you can wean yourself on healthy foods that still taste good. And don't be afraid to experiment. You know, if there's something you haven't tried that's healthy, try it. You may like it. You may not, then go to the next thing. There's a lot of different choices nowadays. And people are also afraid of the cost of a lot of the healthier foods. But let that also be a sign. Spend the same amount of money, which means you may get less food. Okay, that's part of your diet. You're still eating healthy. You're still saving the same amount of money, mm-hmm. but you're eating less, which is going to also help you. Those extra calories, if you don't eat them, they're going to turn into fat. Or if you don't use them, they're going to turn into fat. You don't want that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be bad for diabetes, bad for cholesterol. So if cost is an issue, let the cost be part of your diet and reduce how much you get.
I love that. I love how you think. Let's talk about stress, Ben. Dr. Edger, my cardiologist, he always gets on me about internalizing stress and how serious it is. And I didn't know internalizing stress could kill you. Mm-hmm. So everyone deals with stress, Ben, especially this day and age. What can people do to manage that?
So one of the best ways to manage stress, and any physician will tell you this, is exercise and walking. If it's hard for you to walk, do it slow. Do it over a long period of time if you have to. They don't want you to hurt yourself, but believe it or not, that regular exercise releases those endorphins in your brain that reduce your stress. They make you feel better. They make you sleep better. And that's another big thing to help with stress is sleep. Typically, your sleep cycle is going to be roughly 90 minutes. So if you're not getting one of those 90-minute cycles, if you wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle, odds are you're going to be more irritated, you're going to be more sleepy, you're not going to want to do as much. Try to time your sleep. You know, if you realize 7 hours is great for you, but 6.5 or 6 is not, try to time your sleep to be 7. If you realize 8 hours is too much and you end up waking up sleepy, go back to 7. You don't have to necessarily get extra sleep, but time it so you get the right amount of sleep. Yeah. And then make sure you go to bed on time and stay off the devices when it comes to late at night. Those things stimulate your brain, make it harder for you to sleep, and you end up not sleeping well, being tired the next day, not working out, getting the fast food, and you just did your whole cycle over again for the next day.
Why you put my business in the street,
right?
Ben? All right.
Those bad habits.
Ben, many people are taking medication for blood pressure, cholesterol. Explain why it is so critical for people to take their medication and take it the way it is supposed to be taken.
So your doctor is going to be the expert on tweaking the right medication for you. And anytime you get a new medication, they're always going to start you off slow and then work it up until they see that they're getting the improvement they want. If they go too far, they back it back down. Medications can be very potent, and especially when it comes to heart medications. Taking one not often enough can cause you to have abnormal heartbeats. Taking one too much can cause you to have low blood pressure. You really want to make sure you take it to the specific amount prescribed for you so that you get that perfect sweet spot that the doctor's looking for. And because everybody is different, there's not going to be a universal number for everybody. So you've got to let your doctor work that number out for you and then stick with that number. As your symptoms, say, get worse or better, they may adjust those medications. That's why you continuously go to your doctor to get it tweaked again if you need to, but that's why it's so important to stick with the right dosage. The point is they want to treat you. And if you don't take the right dosage or you skip them every other day because you want to save money or something like that, when you go back to the doctor, if you're doing that, you have to tell them that. Because what they're going to do is they're going to treat you by upping your medication because they think you're taking it every day. So just make sure you're very transparent with what you're doing. If you're not following things exactly how they should, you need to make sure they're aware of that. Are they going to fuss at you? Probably, right? But you also don't want them changing your medications because of some false information that they have.
All right. And Ben, as we wrap up today's broadcast, what is the one message that you hope our listeners and our viewers remember during American Heart Month?
Your heart is one of the most important organs you can have in your body. It greatly affects how you feel. It greatly affects how long you live. The more you take care of it, the better you're going to be. I know so many people nowadays are nosy about what's going on with their loved ones, with their friends, with their family members. They're nosy about other people's health, but they're not nosy about their own health. They ignore it. They're afraid of it. Go be nosy about your own health. Knowledge is power. It's going to be what keeps you alive. Anything that makes you scared, get checked. If it bothers you, get it checked. Until you understand why you're feeling that way, you should keep going. That's what's going to keep you alive.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Beeson, our guest today on Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Now, if you would like to learn more about heart health services and resources the health system offers, you can go to capefearvalley.com or you can contact your primary health care provider. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our guest today, Mr. Ben Beeson, the patient care manager for cardiac services at Cape Fear Valley Health. Ben, this has been great. Thank you for stopping by, and you already know you always have an open invitation to Making Rounds Live.
Thank you, ma'am.
And ladies and gentlemen, mark this date. Our next broadcast is on Tuesday, February 24th, so make plans to join us. For our producers, Lindsey Graham and Ray Thomas and the hardworking team behind the scenes, I'm Omega Jones. Thanks for listening to and watching Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live.
Happy Heart Month, right?
WIDU, your station for inspiration and information.
NCI News, I'm Mike Riley. Spring is over a month away, and North Carolina still has no updated budget. There may not be one until after the election. There are issues that have kept the House and Senate apart, and House Speaker Dustin Hall tells Henry Hinton on NCN affiliate WTIB in Greenville.
The way that we operate in North Carolina, of course, when we have a budget, it continues on until we pass an updated budget. So right now, folks are still getting paid.